Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Our today's topic is Qurbani and qayamat, and this is about the spiritual secrets of Eid ul-Adha sacrifice. So first of all, Eid Mubarak to all present online. May the wisdom and tawil of this Eid May the wisdom and tawil and nurani happiness of this Eid reaches every one of us. So today we'll be talking about the spiritual secrets of Eid ul-Adha, or the tawil of this particular Eid. Okay, usually people think that Eid is an occasion of happiness, meeting family and friends. But we will inshallah notice as we go through the slides that for us it means much more than physical worldly happiness. It's a nurani happiness, it's a nurani liberation, it is a nurani time of wisdom and tawil which we celebrate, and that is our actual Eid. Because we are looking at Qurbani and qayamat. So first of all, we will just see a few facts about Qurbani. Qurbani or sacrifice is an important concept of our tariqah. Through Qurbani, one gets closeness of Mawla, because Qurbani, the word Qurbani comes from Qurb, and through Qurbani, we do Qurbani, we perform Qurbani because we want to get the closeness, the Qurb of Mawla. But there are different kinds of Qurbani. For example, I'm just talking in context of our Jamaat, our rituals. So sacrificing goods, animals, property, this is one kind of sacrifice with many members of Jamaat do. Even things which are, we perform Nandi in Jamaat Khana, so we also take food. There are many kinds of sacrifice in form of goods. Many people donate their property to Imamat institution, or in rural setting, people also donate animals for Nandi or for other purposes. So sacrificing good is a kind of Qurbani. Then physical Jani Qurbani, it means dying for the cause of religion. Now, this used to be there in the history of Ismaili Tariqa. There were times when we all know that Imam were in hiding, Dore Satar, and there were problems. Ismailis were being massacred. There were many problems. And many Ismailis have to offer Jani Qurbani. They have to give the gift of their life to save religion or to protect other moments. So this was also one of the Qurbani which our Ismailis offered. Then khidmat. Physical khidmat, it means serving in Jamaati institutions, Pani Company, Shoe Company, Nandi, volunteers, Girls Guide, all kind of physical activities or physical service which makes our Jamaati work go smooth. So these kinds of physical khidmat is also a kind of Qurbani. Then offering Male Wajibat. This is a compulsory financial Qurbani which we Ismailis all offer, and we believe in that. And other optional financial Qurbani, like there is Mali Qurbani, it is known. It means entering higher mandalis for spiritual progress. It's also an optional Mali Qurbani, or supporting Imamat institutions or other humanistic causes. This is also financial Qurbani, which we do. And nowadays, Maulana Hazrat Imam speaks a lot about a kind of sacrifice, a kind of Qurbani, which is time and knowledge and skills. TKN, Time and Knowledge Nazrana, and a great importance has been given to this particular Qurbani, that you donate your time, you inculcate your skills in Jamaat, you spread knowledge, wisdom. So this sacrifice or this Qurbani is, in recent time, this is given a lot of importance. We all know about these Qurbanis existed in Ismaili Tariqa and some of them are existing now. There is no Jani Qurbani as such in religion nowadays. And Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah Salvatullah alayhi has said in one of his farmans that I don't want your life, I ask for your heart. So it's more about feelings, it's more about emotions, it's more about love and devotion that Imam is asking. And he is especially asking time, knowledge, Nazrana in these recent times. So we all know about these Qurbanis, but Quran talks about a very unique Qurbani. And this is the greatest Qurbani of perfect men and sublime souls. Not everybody is able to offer this kind of a Qurbani, but perfect men and sublime souls can offer this kind of Qurbani. And this is greatest Qurbani, which is known as Zibhin Azim. In the Holy Quran, it is known as Zibhin Azim, the tremendous Qurbani, the greatest Qurbani, which is related to story of Hazrat Ibrahim and Hazrat Ismail, because Eid al-Azha is related to tradition of Hazrat Ibrahim. So we will be talking about this particular Qurbani. And this Qurbani is experiencing the spiritual death before the physical death. This Qurbani cannot be offered unless somebody goes through spiritual death before the physical death, as we all have known and understood the hadith, mutu qabla an tamutu, die before your physical death. So this Qurbani is not possible without experiencing the spiritual death. So although we know all kinds of Qurbani existing, and these are very important for the stability of Jamaat, for benefit of whole Jamaat, every moment. And these are important that we continue with all these kinds of Qurbanis. But we are, today we are trying to understand one greatest Qurbani, which Quran talks about, and that Qurbani is Zibhin Azim. So we understood Qurbani, and now we just recapitulate few points from qayamat. We have been talking about qayamat in our last few lectures. We understood the cycle of qayamat, personal qayamat. So qayamat for us is constant and perpetual. In this talk, because we are looking at the link of qayamat and Qurbani, so we talked about Qurbani and now about qayamat. So qayamat for us is constant and perpetual. It keeps going on in this universe. And there is a concept of universal qayamat, dawre qayamat, which we all believe has started from Hazrat Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah Salawatullah alayhi's time, as he is Hujjat-e-Qaim. And Hujjat-e-Qaim is one of the greatest rank which starts the cycle of Qiyamah. So there is a concept of universal Qiyamah, Dawre Qiyamah, where many significant changes take place in universe, and the blessings of Qiyamah in form of Tawil and wisdom become available for common people. Before that, before the cycle of Qiyamah, in other cycles, many Tawils were not opened because the time had not come. And many other blessings of these Tawil and Ibadat were not even available for common people. But Dawr-e Qiyamat is a cycle of common people. So in form of Tawil and wisdom, the blessings of Qiyamat is available for common people now. We also talked about personal Qiyamat, personal resurrection, which is the path to spiritual progress, Marifat, Didar, and wisdom, which could only be achieved after the greatest Qurbani of Mutu Qabla an Tamutu is offered. We also discussed our great sages like Pir Nasir Khusro, Pir Sadruddin, Sayyidina Mu'ayyid Shirazi. These all Buzurgs underwent this particular qayamat. Sayyidina Jafar bin Mansurul Yaman, because the wealth of knowledge and tawil they brought shows that they went through qayamat and they were able to bring the wealth of knowledge and wisdom after having gone through this personal resurrection. Thus, there is a relation of Qurbani and qayamat. I mean, personal qayamat is a Qurbani, and that greatest Qurbani is mutu qabla an tamutu. So there is a relation between the Qurbani and qayamat. And every time there is Qurbani of mutu qabla an tamutu, there is a qayamat. If Pir Nasir Khusro went through mutu qabla an tamutu, qayamat was resurrected, and it resulted in form of tawil, his books, his influence, his dawat. Because after the qayamat, there are impacts of those qayamat, there are effects of those qayamats which could be seen. If Pir Sadruddin resurrected a qayamat in his time, we see that Satpanth religion was spread, and his dawat had far-reaching impacts. So wherever there is a Qurbani of mutu qabla an tamutu, there is qayamat. And qayamat, whether personal or universal, cannot take place without the greatest Qurbani. I mean, we are relating Qurbani and qayamat, that if somebody goes through mutu qabla an tamutu, this is the greatest Qurbani according to Quran, then there is a qayamat. So there is a relationship between Qurbani and qayamat. And all our Buzurgs who went through these spiritual experiences, they also resurrected an ilmi qayamat of their time. So the sacrifice of Hazrat Ismail, therefore, is a story of his personal qayamat. We will also briefly mention the Zahiri story, and we'll try to understand its Batini aspect. So this talk is an effort to understand the concept of Qurbani in the context of qayamat. Because we Ismaili believe in esoteric understanding of our faith. So like other people, our thinking and our understanding is just not restricted to sacrificing a sacrificial animal. And this is the tradition of Hazrat Ibrahim. For us, the tradition of Hazrat Ibrahim is very deep. It has a Batini understanding, a Batini level, and as Ismailis, we are trying to understand the Batini concept of Qurbani and Eid al-Azha. Because Qurbani is related to personal qayamat. For us, the greatest Qurbani is dying before the physical deaths, going through that experience. And in our last discussion about personal qayamat, we had discussed that Quranic narration of qayamat is mostly related to the personal qayamat, which has certain stages already discussed in the previous lectures on personal resurrection. The broad sketch of personal qayamat is a mu'min entering Baitul Khayal, receiving Isme Azam, while he also continues with additional ibadat, which are known as nawafil. So this is the first step, that a mu'min enters in Baitul Khayal, then he receives Isme Azam, and he continues his ibadat with lot of zikre kasir, with extra ibadat, with additional ibadat. Then practicing Isme Azam with all its conditions leads to the first light. And we have talked in our previous lectures about first light and its details. Then the world of imagination and dreams of that moment get illuminated. The world of imagination, he sees a world of light in his imagination progresses. As it is, imagination is one of very strong faculty of human beings, and it quickly could move from one part of the world to the other part of the world, and same with dreams. So the imagination and dreams of that moment get illuminated. Then experiencing the spiritual deaths, mutu qabla an tamutu, the greatest Qurbani. Zibhin Azim. Now, this is part of personal qayamat, which we had discussed in last two lectures. That when a moment after having entered the Baitul Khayal, receiving Isme Azam, practicing Isme Azam with all its conditions, after the world of imagination and dreams get enlightened, then he goes through experience of spiritual death. And that is Mutu Qabla Antamutu. And Hazrat Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah Salvatullah alayhi has spoken about it in his Farman. I remember one of his Farman, he says that, why don't you try to seize your soul while you are in ibadat? Apni रूह को बाहर निकाल कर देखो, अपनी रूह को इबादत में बाहर निकाल कर देखो. So this is a concept very familiar to Ismaili Batini understanding. Is mutu qabla an tamutu. Sufis also give a lot of importance to that. But receiving Isme Azam from Imam and the actual experience of mutu qabla an tamutu, to our understanding, exist in Ismaili Tariqa. So getting alive in a higher life with Rohani and Aqli resurrection. After this spiritual resurrection, there is an intellectual resurrection, Aqli resurrection. And when a traveler of spiritual path goes through all these four stages, he comes with a wealth of knowledge and wisdom, and he has a great impact. He has literature, and his impact is lasting for centuries. So this is the sketch of personal qayamat, which I just repeated that slide from the previous presentation to be able to understand that Zibhin Azim, which is greatest Qurbani, which is in the story of Hazrat Ibrahim and Hazrat Ismail. Now, Zahiri story, we all know, but just to recap it quickly, that Hazrat Ibrahim was commanded by Allah to sacrifice most beloved things of his. And the story says that Ibrahim tried to sacrifice different other things which were very dear to him, but he continuously saw a dream that he was sacrificing his son Ismail, who was very dear to him. So Hazrat Ibrahim, as per the divine order, was ready to sacrifice Ismail. He took Ismail because this was an order from Allah, and Ibrahim, being a great prophet and an imam, he obeyed that command, and he took Ismail, and he was about to sacrifice Ismail, that Allah saved Ismail, and a ram or a goat was slaughtered instead. We all know this Zahiri story. The Zahiri story says that Ibrahim, when he was taking his son for sacrifice, Shaitan tried to disturb him at many places, telling him not to do that because how could he sacrifice his son? But as per the divine order, Hazrat Ibrahim took Hazrat Ismail, and he was about to sacrifice him, but Allah changed Hazrat Ismail with a ram or a goat, and that animal was slaughtered instead. That is the Zahiri story. And the Quranic verses about this particular story, it says, and we ransomed, we saved him, fadainahu, that is the Arabic word, with a tremendous sacrifice. And Ismail was saved, he was ransomed, he was relieved, and in place of him, Allah took another tremendous sacrifice. He accepted a greater sacrifice and he saved Ismail. Now, there is a question that how could be a goat or a ram be a greater sacrifice than Ismail's life? We are just analyzing the Zahiri story, because the Zahiri story says that Ibrahim took Ismail and he wanted to sacrifice Ismail, and Allah changed Ismail with a goat or a ram. And then Allah says that I accepted a greater sacrifice in place of Ismail. I saved Ismail, I ransomed Ismail, and in his place, I took a tremendous sacrifice. So how could a goat or a ram be greater than Ismail's life? This is a big question. So according to Ismaili Tawili literature, Ismail was not sacrificed physically. It was not intended. It was not meant to be. Actually, Ismail was supposed to go through a spiritual death, a spiritual sacrifice, the greatest sacrifice, because after that sacrifice, he was going to be appointed on a great rank of Asas. So Ismail was first sacrificed in his dream, then laid down happily for physical sacrifice, then spiritually went through thousands of even greater sacrifices. So it was not the physical sacrifice. Okay, he first, a dream was there that Ibrahim was sacrificing Ismail. And then he was happy even if Allah wanted his physical life. But actually it was the spiritual sacrifice which he went through. And Pir Nasir Khusro in Wajhuddin says that Qurbani, to sacrifice, means to take covenant from his successor. And slaughter the camel means take the covenant of the Asas. Pir Nasir Khusro is explaining Qurbani, and for him, Qurbani is a prophet, a natik, taking covenant from his successor, from Asas, appointing him as Asas and taking a covenant from Asas. Asas se ahd lena Qurbani hai. तावीली पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से हजरत पीर नासिर खुसरो के मुताबिक कुर्बानी जो है वो एक नातिक पैगंबर जो है अपने असास को मुकर्रर करता है, एंड दैट इज सैक्रिफाइस. अ नातिक प्रॉफिट, अ ग्रेट प्रॉफिट, when he is appointing his asas, he takes a covenant from his successor, and that is to make him go through the spiritual deaths, make him go through the spiritual progress, and appointing him at the final rank of that spiritual progress. So that Qurbani and sacrifice means to make the asas go through the highest spiritual experiences. Okay, so we just saw Pir Nasir Khusro saying that it is a natik prophet who is taking covenant from his asas. Okay, so physical, it means the physical sacrifice of Ismail was never meant. It was never intended. The divine command to sacrifice Ismail does not mean to sacrifice him physically, but to appoint him as the successor to the imamat after Ibrahim for greater benefits for the humanity. And that is the tremendous sacrifice. It means that if it was physical sacrifice, then he would have sacrificed once for all. But he was supposed to go through spiritual experience to be able to serve the humanity. And for the greater benefit of humanity, this was a spiritual sacrifice. The physical sacrifice of Ismail was replaced by the spiritual sacrifice so that he may live and sacrifice and dedicate his life to help his followers and other human beings, not only during his own lifetime, but through his successors in all ages. We all know that Hazrat Ismail, from the progeny of Hazrat Ismail, the chain of Imams continued, and that chain came up to Imam Abu Talib. And from that family, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, became the final prophet of Islam. So Ismail was sacrificed not only to benefit people of his own time, but also to people of all other times through his successor in all ages. So example of a tree or a walnut tree could explain one-time sacrifice, and sacrifice which has lasting impact and lasting benefits. I mean, we can take example of a walnut tree, and we can see that what is the greater sacrifice and what is one-time sacrifice. So let's sacrifice tree for once. What will happen? Eat the fruit. It will give it leaves to cattle. It will be a fodder for cattle, for example. Use its branches and walnut shells as fuel, and make furniture from its trunk. the tree has sacrificed itself once. We ate the fruit, we used the leaves, we also used its branches and shells as fuel, and we made furniture from its trunk or made something else, for example. But let that tree live. What will happen? It will give you oxygen every day, will give you fruits, oil, leaves, and branches every year. There will be fruit every year, and from that fruit you can extract oil. There will be leaves and branches every year. It will also provide you with constant fuel. Decorate your garden or farm. It will also be a piece of decoration in your garden or farm. Your garden will look beautiful because there is a beautiful tree there. Will keep sacrificing itself upon your family and coming generations for decades. If you let that tree live, it will keep sacrificing itself on generations to come. But if you cut that tree for once, it was sacrificed for once, and then it finished. But if you let that tree live, then you see it is sacrificing itself for generations. So which is the lasting sacrifice? Which is the tremendous sacrifice? Because Allah talks about tremendous sacrifice. He talks about the greatest sacrifice. So what is greatest sacrifice? Greatest sacrifice is that Ismail was taken covenant, and he lived. He went through spiritual death, not the physical death. He went through spiritual death, and he was appointed on a rank to work for the humanity. For example, today Imam talks about dedicating his life for human beings, because Imam is Imam for Ismailis and Imam is Imam for the whole universe. In Quran, we have two terms, Imamun Nas and Imamul Muttaqeen. He is Imam for all the human beings, whether they know it or not, whether they realize it or not, but he is source of life of all human beings, and he is also Imam of Muttaqeen, of righteous one, of those who are pious in a very special sense. So Imam is Imam for the whole universe, and he dedicates his life for his murids in special terms and for all other people in general. So Qurbani implies a means which brings a person closer to God. Thus, the exoteric and esoteric guidance of the true guide is the greatest sacrifice by which the servants of God become closer to him. Maulana Hazrat Imam Salawatullah Alayhi has said, I have dedicated my life to uplift and progress of the Ismailis all over the world, and I pray for all your happiness and success. Further, he says, my grandfather dedicated his life to the Imamat and Islam, both of which came first and above all other considerations. My life, as his, will be dedicated to the service of my followers. So Imam dedicating his life, it is almost the same like Ismail revived spiritually to dedicate his life and benefit humanity at large. So a Natik taking covenant from Asas from Imam, and Imam from Hujjat. When we talk about Natik taking covenant or Ahad from Asas, then Asas takes it from Imam and Imam takes it from Hujjat. Hazrat Ibrahim appointing Ismail as an Asas is like slaughtering a sacrificial animal so that he may bring the moments closer to God. So Hazrat Ibrahim, when he appointed Ismail as Asas, its example is like slaughtering a sacrificial animal, because we can see everything which sacrifices itself, which annihilates itself, it becomes alive in a higher soul. When the essence of mineral is annihilated into vegetation, it becomes annihilated into vegetation and gets a higher soul. When vegetation annihilates itself into animal, the vegetation gets a higher soul and it becomes animal. When animal annihilates itself into human being, then his rank is raised, and now it is working through human powers, human faculties. It was annihilated into a human being. Similarly, a human being, a mu'min, when he gets annihilated into the higher soul, Ruh-e Qudsi of Imam, then he is revived in that soul. So Hazrat Ibrahim, when he appointed Ismail, it was annihilating Ismail in the higher reality, and he became a source of the closeness of Allah for other people. So Asas then takes covenant of Imamat from his heir and makes him means of divine proximity. I mean, Natik took a covenant from Asas, and Asas, while appointing the Imam, because after Imam Ismail, there was a chain of Imams. And we have in our presentations have displayed those names also, that from Hazrat Ismail, there is a chain of Imamat which travels up to Imam Abu Talib, Abu Abdul Muttalib and Abu Talib. And from that family is Mawla Murtaza Ali and Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So the Asas then takes the covenant of Imamat from his heir, his successor, and makes him the means of divine proximity. Imam then offers sacrifice of Hujjat, and Imam takes covenant from Hujjat, and he enriches him with the spiritual wealth of knowledge and wisdom, and makes him fountainhead of knowledge and wisdom, so that he may be means of marifat for the servants. So it means, this was Asas who went through spiritual sacrifice. Then he takes covenant from Imam, and Imam takes covenant from Hujjat. We have seen the Buzurgs in our history. They were also taken covenant, and they were enriched with spiritual knowledge and wisdom, and they became a means for moments to get them closer to real knowledge and nur of Imam. So it is to experience mutu qabla an tamutu, die before your death, and get revived in the spiritual and intellectual life to be able to serve the humanity. So the sacrifice of an animal on the occasion of Eid al-Azha is actually the Tawili wisdom of that is Prophet Natik is taking covenant from Asas and appointing him on the rank of Asas. And Allama Nasir Hunzai's one of the verse explains it. Mere Maula ne mujhe logon se qurban kar diya. Is khalili kaam se dunya ko hairan kar diya. My Maula sacrificed me for people and surprised the world with this khalili action. This khalili act. Khalil is a title of Hazrat Ibrahim. Khalil means friend. The title of Hazrat Ibrahim is friend of Allah, Khalilullah. So from this Khalili act, he surprised the world because he sacrificed me for people. So every perfect man who is sacrificed spiritually, he is sacrificed for all people, and it benefit reaches to each and every person of the world. So what are some other examples of sacrifice? Perhaps we cannot go into detail of this tawil, but we all know that Hazrat Khizr, while he was traveling with Hazrat Musa, he kills a young child. And Musa, at that particular time, asked him that why did he do that? So this is also a tawil of killing the carnal soul. It is also going through nafsani maut. It is not that he killed a boy in actuality. He did not, because the Akli Shariat, the law, the moral values were always intact in every age. So he did not kill a young boy. He killed the carnal soul, or he made somebody go through spiritual experience of spiritual death. So this was also a kind of Qurbani. So it is like the young boy who was killed by Hazrat Khizr. To acquire greater life, one has to experience death. It is also known as Batini Shahadat, or spiritual resurrection. Ibrahim sacrificing Ismail is the same as Adam appointed his son Habil as an Asas, who offered his Qurbani, which was accepted by God. We all know that both Habil and Qabil offered their Qurbanis, and Allah accepted Habil's Qurbani. It means Habil underwent the spiritual qayamat, and he was at the rank of Asas. Pir Nasir Khusro also talks about Prophet Muhammad was asked to sacrifice. He was asked to establish the Dawat and sacrifice. So it was to take covenant from his Asas. So these are the examples in the Quran, which exist in the stories of other prophets also. The spiritual path is same for all prophets. We have talked about it in earlier presentations that some particular prophets have particular titles, like Hazrat Adam is known as Safiullah, chosen by Allah. Hazrat Nuh is known as Najiullah, the one who was saved by Allah. Hazrat Ibrahim was known as Khalilullah, friend of Allah. Hazrat Musa was known as Kalimullah, the one who talked to Allah. Hazrat Isa was known as Ruhullah, the soul of Allah. And Hazrat Ismail was known as Zabihullah, the one who was sacrificed, slaughtered in the way of Allah. Actually, these all titles are true for all the prophets. But Allah, through his wisdom, highlights one particular aspects of spiritual progress in the story of one prophet and highlights another aspect in the story of another prophet. Otherwise, all prophets, if Adam is Safiullah, chosen by Allah, all other prophets were chosen by Allah. The title of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa is Mustafa, that is also chosen one. So all other prophets were chosen, all other prophets talked to Allah, all other prophets were soul of Allah, all other prophets were friends of Allah. So these titles were true, or these experience, this path is one and same. And every perfect man goes through that path. So it means in the stories of other prophets also, there are examples of the same sacrifice, but this sacrifice and spiritual death is highlighted in the story of Hazrat Ismail. I would like to share this particular slide from the last presentation, where I have shared with you that Allama Nasir Hunzai's personal account of qayamat helps us a lot to understand the details of qayamat. So he says, I observed the testing lights of the beginning. However, that amazing internal experience created a lot of happiness. Ibadat continued, and there was an increasing success in that. Then there was revolution in dreams, and many spiritual wonders and marvels were experienced. I saw myself killed a few times in my dreams and got ready for any kind of death. I was not disappointed as the other Nurani glad tidings continued. I started Zikr Kasir and almost forgot the world. In 1951, I was in prison and Hazrat Israel and his army arrived. First the army and then the commander, Hazrat Israel, arrived. His presence was felt in his voice. His action was one divine ism, one divine name. His command was in form of zikr. His army was in small particles. The commander was reciting the ism in my ear, and the army penetrated my body and started to seize my soul. This is the gist from one of the interviews, Mufid interview. And he also talks about Israel seizing the soul. He says, this section of seizing soul continued for a week. The soul from the complete body was seized, but its lower end was attached to my brain so that I can perceive this spiritual death. It was a great trial and not less than qayamat. My external and internal senses became one, and then they were working together. Manifestation of soul could be in subtle particles, in voice, in light, in fragrance, in imagination, in dream, in subtle body, etc. Then there is a didar behind the veil and a didar and a direct didar also. So he talks about his personal resurrection, and that can give us a lot of depth and understanding of personal resurrection. So what actually it means to go through spiritual qayamat or spiritual death, because it's a process, and there your soul is seized for multiple times. And I mean, one can understand the agony, the trauma of a soul leaving the body. because it is attached with every cell, and I mean your whole body starts to get cold, like very cold in fact, and that creates a pain. So, and for a person who is experiencing that life, so it's this is the great sacrifice. This is the a tremendous sacrifice which Allah talks about. This is Zibhin Azim. So in Quran, translation of this is chapter 37, verse 102 and 107 till 107. So this is the Quranic story. There are many other things which traditions have joined it as a story, but what Quran actually says is, I have written that here. It is chapter 37, Surah Safat, verses 102 to 107. And when his son, meaning Ismail, reached the age of running Sa'ya with him, he said, "O my son, surely I have seen in a dream that I should sacrifice you. Consider then what you see." He said, "O my father, do what are you commanded. If Allah please, you will find me of the patient ones." So when they both submitted, and he threw him down upon his forehead, Lil Jabin, and we called out to him, saying, "O Ibrahim, you have indeed shown the truth of the vision. Surely thus do we reward the doers of good. Most surely this is a manifest trial, and we ransomed him with a tremendous sacrifice, Zibhin Azim." So this is the Quranic narration of the whole story. I mean, getting a goat or a ram slaughtered in his place, that is the traditional part of it. But Quran speaks that Ibrahim tells his son that I have seen a dream that I should sacrifice you, and Ismail says that he was all ready for that, and they both submitted to the order of Allah. And then then Hazrat Ibrahim made him fall down on the earth on his forehead. Now this is important. And Allah says that you completed your duty, you were obedient. So we do reward the doers of good. And this was a trial, but you were successful. And we ransomed Ismail with a tremendous sacrifice, and that is Zibhin Azim. And what was sacrificed in place of Ismail? That was either a goat or a ram. So Allah says that we relieved Ismail, we saved Ismail, and in his place we took a ransom by a tremendous sacrifice. So here, as we saw, that it could not be a goat or ram, because they could not be a tremendous sacrifice than the life of Hazrat Ismail. If the life of Hazrat Ismail was intended, then nothing could be greater than that as such, except that he went through spiritual deaths multiple times. That was a greater sacrifice. Sacrificing his physical life would have been a one-time act, but sacrificing him for spiritual elevation and for appointment on the rank of Asas was a tremendous sacrifice, Sibhin Azim, and then he was up to the mark to serve the humanity. I have also written the translation in Urdu. जब वो यानी इस्माइल उनके साथ दौड़ने की उम्र को पहुंचा, when Ismail was able to run with Ibrahim. I mean, in a young age, a child could run with his father. तो जब वो उनके साथ दौड़ने की उम्र को पहुंचा, तो इब्राहिम ने कहा, बेटा, मैं ख्वाब में देखता हूं कि गोया तुमको ज़िबह कर रहा हूं, तो तुम सोचो कि तुम्हारा क्या ख्याल है। उन्होंने कहा, अब्बा, जो हुक्म आपको हुआ है वही कीजिए, अल्लाह ने चाहा तो आप मुझे साबरीन में पाएंगे। जब दोनों ने हुक्म मान लिया और बाप ने बेटे को माथे के बल लिटा दिया, तो हमने उनको पुकारा कि ए इब्राहिम, तुमने ख्वाब को सच्चा कर दिखाया, हम नेकूकारों को ऐसा ही बदला दिया करते हैं। बिलाशुबा ये एक सरी आजमाइश थी और हमने एक बड़ी कुर्बानी को इनका फिदिया कर दिया। तो इस कुरानी जो कहानी है हजरत इब्राहिम और हजरत इस्माइल की, इसमें जो अहम चीज है वो ये है कि जब इस्माइल दौड़ने की उम्र तक पहुंचा। ये इंपॉर्टेंट बात है, इसको हम एक्सप्लेन करेंगे। और इसके बाद माथे के बल लिटा दिया। अगर किसी का गला काटना हो तो उसको पेशानी के बल नहीं लिटाया जाता है, बल्कि सर के बल लिटाया जाता है। मगर खुदा ने फरमाया कि बाप ने बेटे को माथे के बल लिटा दिया, तो ये पेशानी या माथे का भी एक खास मतलब है, जो हम एक्सप्लेन करेंगे। आई वाज जस्ट सेइंग दैट when he reached at the age of running, now because it is not a physical story, so it does not mean that when Ismail was running with his father, like a child of 2 years or 3 years would be running with his father, or a younger child will be playing with his father, for example. So it is not a physical story, so it is not a physical running. And then Ibrahim threw him down upon his forehead, or made him lie upon his forehead. If anybody wants to slaughter a human being, then he would be using his knife on his neck, and the person should be sleeping on his head and not his forehead. So this is also something which tells us that this is not a Zahiri story, because forehead and the secrets of forehead is also something which has a spiritual understanding and explanation. So when Ismail was able to run, what does that mean? So there is a concept of running fast on the path of spiritual progress also. I mean, if somebody wants to do some important job in this world and he has to run, he runs fast. There are competitions where people compete each other. We all think to compete people in our worldly life to progress financially, professionally, and everybody is trying his or her best to do that. So there is a concept of competition in the world. There is a concept of running fast in the world. Similarly, there is a concept of spiritual progress, that one has to run fast for spiritual progress. There are 2 verses in the Holy Quran which talk about running fast or hastening. And hasten, sari'u, that is the Quranic word, to forgiveness from your Lord and the garden, Jannat, whose with his death of the whole of the heavens and the earth prepared for muttaqeen. Allah says, go fast, surpass all others, sari'u, dhoro, bhago, towards what? Forgiveness of your Lord and the Jannat, the garden. Allah has kept it ready for pious ones. So run towards the forgiveness of your Lord and run towards that garden. So he is inviting people to run. And to run spiritually is not like running physically. You don't run with your feet. You run with your speed of acquiring knowledge and understanding, with your zikr kasir, with your obedience, with your moral values. That's how you will run fast. So there is a concept of running fast for spiritual progress, and this the other ayat is also similar. Then there is another ayat which says, "Fafirru ilallah," flee unto Allah, run towards Allah, flee towards Allah. So this also shows that a point is there in spiritual progress also. One is asked to run fast. है दूर बहुत इल्मी सफर तेज चला चल, पुरअमन है ये राह न डर तेज चला चल. This is one of the poem of Allama Sahib, and he says that your ilmi journey is very far. Run fast, go fast, so that you can reach to a destination. So in the Quran, saya or yas'a, to run, is also used for running of the nur, which shows an extremely sublime level of marifat. Now, what I'm trying to explain, that when Ismail reached at the level of running with Ibrahim, so because it is not a physical running, so what is it? And that's what we are explaining through these verses. So the description of when he reached at the age of running with him means that when Ismail, like Ibrahim, reached to the miracle of running of the light. Points come in the spiritual progress where a light runs in front of that mu'min and on his right side. So the Quran says on that day, which day? The day of resurrection. Now this could be a personal resurrection. On that day, you will see believing men and women, their light running before them and on their right hand. And their greeting will be, good news for you today, garden beneath which river flow, to dwell therein, that is the grand achievement. I mean, Allah is talking about Mu'min and Mu'minat, that on the day of resurrection, they will see a light before them and a light on their right hand. So there is a concept of running of light. Now, why does the light run? Because within that short span of personal resurrection, the understanding of the cycles and cycles in the past is given to that perfect man. He sees everything beyond this cycle and even after that cycle. So the nur runs and that light runs for him. As we know, the speed of light, even physical light, is faster than many other things. So this is nurani light. This is nur of Mawla, which runs very fast. It runs from pre-eternity to the post-eternity, and it shows you everything. For example, it runs through the cycles and reveals the reality of all the cycles. So that's where the nur, the light, runs, because it quickly covers and brings the whole knowledge and wisdom for that Arif, the person who is becoming the Arif. So now when Allah says that when Ismail was able to run with Ibrahim, that means that when Ismail was able to reach that level where light runs in front of a mu'min and on his right side, then he was sacrificed. Final sacrifice was taking place at that particular time. So this is about running of Hazrat Ismail being able to run with Hazrat Ibrahim. And because Eid-e-Azha is an Eid, it is after the day of Hajj. So Pir Nasir Khusro, asking one of his friends, he has a point, because Hajis, they have one particular ritual that they run through Marwa and Safa. These are two places. So they run between these two places where Hazrat Hajira was looking for water. She was running from Safa to Marwa, and to sanctify that place, the Hajis who go for pilgrim, they also run in this particular place, and this is known as a Sa'i. This is known as Sa'i. This is same thing as the Quran says Yas'a or Saya. So the Hajis run through this place. Now this is about the marifat of the house of Allah. And for us, the house of Allah is Imam himself. So all our struggle, running fast on the path of spiritual progress and reaching to the rank where the light runs in front of us, it is all to recognize Imam. So P. Nasir Khusro asks one of his friends that when you performed Sa'i, when you were running between Safa and Marwa, when you ran between Safa and Marwa 7 times, did you see both the worlds with purity and light of your heart? Did you raise above the thought of paradise and hell? It means, did you raise to the level of running of light? So the Hajj, the actual Tawil of Hajj is recognizing Imam, the Marifat of Imam. So he is asking that, did you raise to the level of running of light? And of course, that friend says that no, he did not think about it, or he. Now this is Sa'i, now it is covered, and people make 7 cycles of running between these two places. They walk fast. So now Allah says that Ibrahim threw Ismail down upon his forehead. So forehead has a special significance and spiritual development. Tallahu lil jabin. This is the Quranic word in that particular ayat, the translation of which was read. He threw him down upon his forehead. So when Ibrahim made him follow the secrets of the forehead, he enabled him to study the secrets of Azal. So there are some secrets in forehead of human being. And after ibadat, many people see light in their forehead or some sensation in their forehead. it shows that this is the center of miracles. And that's what that's what was meant when it was said that Ibrahim threw him down upon his forehead. So forehead of Imam is praised in one of the verse of Sayyidina Muhyiddin Shirazi. He says, he is an Imam, the light from whose forehead aids the sun. The light of forehead of Imam aids the sun. The sun is bright because the light provides the sun the fuel. The sun is alive. The sun lives because the forehead of Imam, the nur of Imam, aids the sun. This is a very interesting concept, and Imam Allah Zikri Salam has also talked about it in his poem. So Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah, he was, when in 1946 he was giving Isme Azam in a Baitul Khayal gathering, Imam touched his forehead and he said, the nur lies here, nur yahan par hai. So this is also very significant that Imam hinted towards his forehead. And forehead in Ginanic literature, we might have heard, Eji Bamar Gufa upar re upar dekhata दिखाता भाई कहो कैसा गुण होवे जगमग जोट जल हले अने वसंत नूरानी सोए. Look upon the space between the brows, between your two eyebrows. Say, oh brother, what is it like? It is filled with brilliant shimmering light, and it is a radiant substance. So forehead is a place, it is a center of miracles. And the sensation Murid gets if he is regular in Isme Azam, it starts from his forehead. So in one of the Ginans, the Peshani, the forehead of Mola, is also celebrated, that Ya Ali Shah kahun to tujhko bajave bakht buland Peshani, that your forehead is the sign of great fortune. So now this Eidul Adha is attached with the concept of Hajj. So Imam is a living house of Allah. This is the journey the pilgrims make towards Mecca or the house of Allah. It is actually signifies the spiritual journey a moment takes, and he's going towards the recognition of Mawla. So in Ismaili Tariqa, Walaya, Imama is the greatest pillar, the fundamental pillar, and all other pillars are achieved through him. So Imam is the living house of Allah, as Mawla, as Prophet said that I am the house of wisdom and Ali is its gate. So Tawil of Hajj refers to the long and strenuous spiritual journey of a salik, a traveler of spiritual path, towards the recognition of the living house of Allah. The living house of Allah is Imam, and the long and strenuous journey which pilgrims undertake actually refers to long and strenuous spiritual journey of a salik. The journey towards Marifate Imam has certain conditions and stations like rituals of Hajj, a spiritual journey through practice, through the practice of Baitul Khayal, which needs concentration and extremely strict discipline on the path of Baitul Khayal. The purpose of the spiritual journey is to reach the living house of Allah. Here, a few verses of Sayyidina Muhyiddin Shirazi. He says, come, I will show you that which is truly the house of God, not what you imagine to be the house of God. Is a house of stone more sacred than the chosen guide who established that house? O most glorious Qibla of truth and most sublime Kaaba of the living, is the Hajj is undertaken to the inanimate house in Mecca? So much more fitting, so much more worthy that we betake ourselves unto you. So our Hajj, Namaz, Salat, everything is Marifat of Imam. We do tawaf round the Mawla, like pilgrims go round the Kaaba. Our lives, our thoughts, our love, our dedication, it all goes through round Mawla. We think about him, our whole lives surround him, his guidance. So like the people go around that house, we go around our Imam, and because our love and our dedication is for him. Eid al-Azha, according to Pir Nasir Khusro, signifies Hazrat Qaim because it is about qayamat. So, Tawil of Wajhi Eid al-Azha signifies Hazrat Qaim. The batin of Shariat will be revealed through him, and the believers will be freed from the pain of ignorance. It is incumbent on believers to rejoice and emerge from concealment and gather on an open plain because he deciphers these symbols and explains them. And reciting takbir before salat symbolizes rejoicing of believers for their victory over the hypocrites and the enemies of religion through Hazrat Qaim. In nutshell, the gist is that in the time of Hazrat Qaim, people will be freed from the pain of ignorance. There will be a liberation. And Eid al-Azha signifies Hazrat Qaim because the believers will rejoice. They will come out from concealment and will be able to discuss things openly. You look at today's time. There was time when Ismailis could not talk about their talimat, when there was limited tawil given in certain cycles, certain times. But now deeper and deeper tawilat and wisdoms are being granted to moments, and they are invited to rejoice that, celebrate that. That is our Eid. If we're celebrating the wisdoms, the secrets of religion, that is our Eid, and that is the greatest Eid of a moment. So what is the message of Eid Qurban? As we explained, that for us, it is not just confined to physical happiness, food, physical sacrifice. It is an occasion to reflect about the blessings showered upon us, the depth and stability of our tariqah, a living guide. The first and foremost, we need to thank for having been blessed with the source of guidance, protection, and happiness, and that is Imam, who has dedicated his life for us. And sharing happiness of knowledge and wisdom is our actual Eid. There are many kinds of Qurbanis, and we should continue with all kinds of Qurbani, and perhaps add one in our life: sacrifice for knowledge. Sacrifice to strengthen the means of knowledge and wisdom. All our thoughts and hopes may be to get closer to that living house of Imam, because Eid al-Azha is connected with the concept of Hajj and the house of Allah. So it is actually after the long journey, after having gone through Mutu Qabla an Tamutu, one gets annihilated into Mawla, and that is the house of God. Imam is known as Hajiyane Ishq Ka Baitul Haram, the sacred house of the pilgrims of love. We are pilgrims of love, pilgrims of love. We are pilgrims of devotion. We are pilgrims of sacrifice. And our travel is to seek him spiritually. That is our Ruhani Hajj, that we try to find him spiritually. For us, he is the living house of Allah. And to find him is more important. To travel towards him is more important. That is the esoteric meaning of Hajj. All of the difficulties are a form of Qurbani. Sometimes our life and our precious times just gets wasted in complaining about difficulties of life. I really like that farman of Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah Salawatullah Alayhi. He says, why should a Mu'min be needing happiness or worrying about grief in life? I mean, he wants us to raise beyond these emotions. Okay, that might not be easy. We are human beings. We live in this world. We feel pain of difficulties. We feel happiness of certain other occasions. But gradually, seeking the spiritual happiness, a Mu'min goes above these emotions. And he looks them from that top, that height. And all the difficulties of life he takes as his Qurbani. Because without Qurbani, there is no qayamat. And all our small Qurbanis may make a quantity of Qurbani, which could help us get some secrets of qayamat. also sacrificing our pride, our anger, certain other habits which do not help us, which do not help others, which do not help the family, and which do not even help for our spiritual progress. These all should be sacrificed also. Because today we cannot go up to that level of Qurbani. That is for selected souls. We have understood that. Not every moment can go up to that level of sacrificing himself spiritually. And perhaps it is not even intended by Mawla. He sacrifices one of the souls in different times, and the benefits, the knowledge, the tawil and wisdom is there for everybody. But we all can continue with our small qurbanis so that a quantity of qurbani is made, and we can also get some benefit from the secrets of qayamat. Our every qurbani is a step forward towards qayamat. All small things we do. Even if we do physical khidmat in Jamaat Khana, that is a qurbani. We do financial khidmat for institutions, for other moments, for other needy people, for other humanistic institutions. Also, this is also qurbani. And this qurbani takes us towards qayamat. And a mu'min, what kind of qurbani a mu'min can do? Till we reach to the point of any spiritual sacrifice, we may continue with all different kinds of khidmat and qurbani bit by bit to make a quantity of qurbani. Material and financial sacrifices play a great part in the overall progress of a mu'min. As in this time, Jani Qurbani is not needed. This is the time when the life is not needed. If today we are members of life dedication, it is not that our physical life is needed. The message is that decorate your life with moral values, with spiritual enlightenment, with love, with dedication, with humanity, and then dedicate that life. So if today physical life is not needed, the mal, the finance could be in place of that. Those who can do that sacrifice, they should be doing that sacrifice, because this sacrifice also helps in spiritual progress. And if we are not able to do that much financial sacrifice, that's fine. Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah Salawatullah alayhi has said that I am not asking you for your life, I am asking for your heart. हम आपसे आपका दिल मांगते हैं, आपकी जान नहीं मांगते हैं. So giving our heart to our Mawla is also a sacrifice. Doing a sajda is also a sacrifice. Taking out time for ibadat, it's also a qurbani. So all kinds of services available in Jamaat are forms of qurbani. All kinds of afflictions a mu'min may encounter are forms of qurbani. The word for affliction, the word for test in Quran is bala. And Allah says that when I test you with something of fear, hunger, loss of goods, loss of lives or fruits, but give glad tidings to those who patiently persevere. So today, just thinking about that great sacrifice, first of all, we should know that sacrifice and physical sacrifice of Hazrat Ismail was never meant by Allah. This was spiritual sacrifice that he went through, mutu qabla and tamutu, and that is appointing him on a great rank of asas in the time of Prophet Ibrahim. And this kind of sacrifice every prophet has offered. And secondly, if we cannot reach that particular qurbani in our this life, or we do not know when that will be actually possible for us, then we can continue with all other qurbanis, so that this qurbani could lead us to qayamat, because qayamat for us is marifat, qayamat for us is didar, qayamat for us is revealing of secrets. So this is how we mu'min should be thinking of Eid. And how should we celebrate the happiness of Eid? Teaching each other about the spiritual aspect of Eid, discussing it with our family members, making them realize to get to understand the spiritual levels of such occasions, and perhaps having a ilmi gathering through Zoom, through a family meeting, Perhaps if we can do that, that is rejoicing. And that is the actual meaning of Eid al-Azha. May Mawla Khudawand give us all the courage, humility, perseverance, and the stability on the path of spiritual progress. And may He make us continue with our small sacrifices with humility, with sincerity, to come to a point of spiritual progress, because all these sacrifices do help us fly spiritually. With that, I will stop here. Thank you very much. Ya Ali Madad.
Thank you, Alwiza. That was wonderful. Each time you cover this topic, we've done this before, but each time there's something new that strikes us, that we understand better. And of course, there was new material that comes out each year. Each year we take additional steps to provide more information so we can have more to think about and how it relates to our lives. So thank you so much for taking this topic again for us. So we would like to begin the question and answer if you're ready, and the chat is open, and whoever has a question can type it into the chat. I do have a request if people can reserve the chat box for questions for now instead of feedback or comments, because sometimes it gets hard to find the questions amongst all the other text. And so there's no questions yet, but we'll give people some time to have their questions. One thing I'd like to comment on, otherwise, is in the story of in Surah 37, Ayah 102. It's very interesting that if one looks at the Arabic of it, and even in the English, but the English sometimes tends to maybe hide what's going on. It's fascinating that Hazrat Ibrahim says that he saw in the dream that he was sacrificing, or he sacrificed Hazrat Ismail, and then right after that he says, in the English, it might say, so consider what you think, or what is your view, as if he's asking, what does his son think about this? As if, well, what do you think? What is your view on this? But the actual Arabic uses two words for vision or to see, and it literally says, so look at what you see. And it uses the same word for see. He said, I have seen this, so now you look, and what do you see? And, it can be taken as what do you think, but I think there's something going on here when he says, I have seen in a dream. And then he said, what do you see? It shows a participation with Hazrat Ismail, with Hazrat Ibrahim, that, and maybe was it really a dream, or was it something else? Or is a dream a code word here for something else that both of them can participate in? Which would make sense, because you had earlier referenced how the word saya, or running, when he was able to run, or when he reached, and bulaga is an important word too, but when he reached the age of being able to run, or the ability to run with his father, then this whole thing, the whole event took place, that he said, I see in the dream that I'm sacrificing you. And the word running itself, as you rightly pointed out, that that there's much more than physical running here. And what's interesting is, even in English, if we just take it just colloquial, or just how we use the words in slang sometimes, and people will probably relate to this in terms of movies and whatnot, usually in a more negative sense, but we can take the positive out of it. Whenever there's like a movie about maybe some, a ring of thieves, or, they're on motorcycles and whatnot, or any sort of group, sometimes it's called, that, are you able to run with us? Or he's running with us, meaning that now this person has now joined us and able to do the work we do, that he runs with us, right? Or you can't run with us. They're not physically running, but you can't hang with us, type of thing, right? So it's kind of similar in that sense, that when he reached the place where he could now participate in that work of Ibrahim, means he's now running with them, or running with him. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Khayal. Thank you for bringing these. Both the points are important and very interesting. Yeah, so I also use the translation as it is written, but I think you have a very nice point that it is said to Ismail, Mazatara, what do you see? So this is participation of Ismail in that spiritual vision which Ibrahim was having. So that's a very important point. And sometimes analyzing these Arabic terms, and in many other verses of Quran, Allah says, Alam tara. I mean, he's asking Prophet, did you not see? So it means it is about some vision. It is about some spiritual reality that he is talking about. And it is not without a spiritual background. So yes, and I also liked your using that term, are you running with us? So that's also gives a very beautiful sense of that, are you with us? Are you participating with us? So yeah, thank you, Khayal.
No problem. So everyone, the chat is open. If you'd like to type out your question, we can ask Alwaiza to elaborate on some points that she had presented in her topic. So since there's nothing else, I will take another moment to share something which struck me as interesting. And this might be sort of like a coincidental type of thing, but sometimes in coincidences, there's some wisdom hidden. And sometimes I like to say that sometimes Allah does like to play around a little bit with us. He likes to have some fun. Like Mullah also tells us that we should have some fun, smile, laugh, and enjoy. I think that goes into a divine way of teaching sometimes. So what's interesting is in one of the slides you mentioned in the, I think it was a verse where Sahib had written that by this Khalil-like work, my Mola has sacrificed, or something like that. By this, my Mola has made me sacrifice. Or I forgot the exact word you have on the screen.
For people, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, what's interesting to me is that this idea that here, so he has Mola who is sacrificing him. So it's like in that sense, Mola becomes like, of course, Hazrat Ibrahim, and then who is being sacrificed is like Hazrat Ismail. And by pure coincidence, in today's time, when we are out, are more in the open, our secrets and knowledge is more being discussed more. Today, we're actually called as Ismailis. Now, that wasn't always the case. We never referred to ourselves as Ismailis before in the past. We had different titles for our group. It's just by coincidence, or maybe like by some sort of convenience, that now we're called as Ismailis. But what's interesting here is that one could almost reason out that when one goes through this experience, this sacrifice, as Hazrat Ismail did, even though it's a different Ismail, we're called Ismail, obviously not from Hazrat Ismail, but in this sense, where one experiences this sacrifice, or is willing to sacrifice themselves to the level that we are completely putting our hands in Mola, who will do what he wants to do with us. At that point, we become true Ismailis in that sense, not just Ismailis of after our eponym of Hazrat Ismail, Imam Jafar Sadiq's son, of course, but here in this case it's Hazrat Ibrahim's son. Now we become Ismailis in a second form because we're willing to be just like Hazrat Ismail would sacrifice his life. So it's just a pure coincidence, perhaps, but maybe there's a wisdom there in that.
Yeah, very interesting, Khalil. And this verse, I really like this verse. कि मेरे मौला ने मुझे लोगों से कुर्बान कर दिया, इस खलीली काम से दुनिया को हैरान कर दिया. So you related it really well, that Imam of the time is now like Ibrahim, and if somebody who is ready for that kind of a sacrifice is like an Ismail, and we are actually Ismail when we are able to offer that Qurbani in one sense. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so fantastic. We have some questions coming in now. The first one is, apart from salawat, are there any other tasbihs to increase our spiritual himmat or courage?
Okay. I think it was quite long back that I did a lecture on tasbihat. I was thinking to redo that with some other, introducing some other tasbihs also. I think from among the existing tasbihat which we know, some Quranic tasbihs like tasbih of Hazrat Yunus. This is known to give a lot of courage and spiritual purity, because Hazrat Yunus was in the stomach of a fish and he prayed there. That is the Zairi story. He prayed there, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin. That there is no God except Allah, and you are pure. In fact, I have been zalim with my own self. So this tasbih creates a lot of humility. If you could do it in a rhythm, or perhaps listen to an audio which is available. I'm sure we have Barkat Ali, Merengue Saiba in somebody's voice. We might have a audio available, or we can make an audio also. If this tasbih is recited, like imagining of Hazrat Yunus, although him being in the stomach of a fish has many tawili aspects, but for one moment we could think that we are in darkness, we are stuck, we are in, we do not see the light, and that's where we are asking for help. So personally, I have tried that, and once you read that with humility, that immediately melts your heart. It helps. So perhaps this is a Quranic tasbih associated to a prophet, and all tasbihs which are associated to prophet or they prayed are very important and significant tasbihs because they were accepted by Allah. So if somebody reads those tasbihat with great concentration, he could also see the miracle of that particular tasbih. So I think this one tasbih could help you set for the ibadat, or listen to a ginan which you really love, a ginan of humility, a vinti where Peer is crying and saying something. That could also help you for spiritual progress, or at least to start bandagi with greater focus and concentration. For the time being, this is one I would like to suggest. Yeah.
Thank you, Eliza. I'm going to ask the next question, but before I do that, just an announcement that I posted the nazam that was recited prior to the session, which is popularly known as Inamde, but it's actually Jame Ishke Azal. I've given a link for someone who was asking for the translation, I believe. So it should have the translation. I believe it also has the original nazam in there as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question would be, when a person is clinically dead for a few minutes or hours and then is revived, where does their soul go for those few minutes or hours?
Interesting. I mean, he exists, and I very much believe that soul is there in his brain. Because I have read a very interesting hadith, and I was very much surprised. It says that when you bury a person, he listens to the footsteps of people going back. And many people who revived after a few hours' deaths, they said that they could hear people around them. They could hear them crying or talking among themselves. That's what I have read some stories. So I think it stays in brain for some time, because this hadith really surprised me, that when you bury a person and the family returns back, that person in his grave listens to the footstep of people leaving. So I think for that some time it remains in his brain, and gradually I think it gets away from there. So I think that person would still be, I mean, if you close your eyes, close your ears, don't think of anything, don't listen to any voice, don't even think that you are in a space or in a time, you still feel that you are there. So that kind of an experience that person must be experiencing, but also realizing that he is not able to open his eyes or see people or talk to people, especially if he is to be revived after a few hours, because we have heard such stories and that happens. So that's where, but I think this is a deep esoteric topic, and perhaps more research and more thought is needed on that. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a follow-up question about those who are in a coma or have Alzheimer's. Where they have no intellect for many years, what happens to such a soul?
Yeah, I think the answer perhaps would remain the same, since because they're not completely dead, perhaps their soul remains in their brain. It has not completely left the body in a way. I mean, it has left the body, but as I said, that those who are even dead, announced dead, complete dead, even if it is said that they can hear the footsteps of people leaving. So I think perhaps it stays with their brain. But as I said, this is a deep topic, and perhaps needs some research and some discussion. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So this is a question related to the topic about Eid al-Adha. So then the question is, can we draw a parallel that every time the next imam is appointed or takes over the imamat, is that Eid al-Adha, or is that like Eid al-Adha? Can we make a parallel between that and the Eid al-Adha?
Interesting. Yes, I mean, that is an occasion of happiness, and every new Imam will come up with new secrets of Hazrat Qaim, because this Eid also signifies Hazrat Qaim and his secrets. So, yes, in that particular sense, every new appointment of every new Imam is Eid for us in any way. I think perhaps in one of the previous presentations, I had talked about three kinds of Eids, because Imam Jafar Sadiq was asked that, do we have any other Eid beside Eid al-Azha and Eid al-Fitr? And he said yes, and that is Eid-e-Ghadir, and that is the greatest and the supreme Eid. So it means Eid-e-Ghadir, which is related to appointment of Mullah Murtaza Ali. If that is the greatest Eid, then with the appointment of every new Imam, we are already celebrating that Eid also. And the other two Eid are definitely linked to that big Eid. So yes, we can say that appointment of every new Imam is Eid-e-Ghadir for us. It is Eid al-Fitr for us. It is Eid al-Azha for us. And this all makes sense because they all are connected, yeah, to Imamat.
Yes, there was a follow-up question after that, but you just answered it, because the question was which one is greater, Eid al-Adha or Eid al-Ghadir, but you just had answered it. And I do remember in a previous session, you had said that there was a link between all the different types of Eid, since we have this hadith that Eid al-Ghadir is superior, but we also understand that each Eid can be seen in one way or another in light of the other, and of course going towards all in line with the idea of how does this fit with the imamat, and which is revealed at Eid al-Ghadir. So I think there's definitely a link between all three of them. Okay, there's a question. Actually, well, before I do that, if you think about this idea about which one's superior, or the very fact that different things are linked, I think we'll come across this quite often. Every time we have these sessions, I would think that we can see a pattern here, that oftentimes the same, different rituals are talked about, or different Quranic ayat are talked about, different concepts, different practices, and somehow they all start to converge, and they all start to relate on the same one principle or one truth or one sort of teaching. But there's many ways, many forms we practice these things. So, and if anything, we can actually say all of the festivals in one way or the other will start to ultimately go to the place of oneness, meaning that it's revealing the one single truth, which is why we have, the path of the Satpant, the true path or path of truth, that it's usually, of course, related to the Imamat, but in all different ways of understanding, all different aspects of understanding the same one single truth in different forms, different festivals. Okay, so the next question is, when it comes to the recitation of tasbih, we have Hazar Imam guiding us with tasbihs. My question is the need to randomly recite the 99 names of Allah, when from those names, Imam gives us selected names. So I believe they're asking, why do we need to recite the 99 names of Allah, or if we need to recite the 99 names of Allah, when from those names, Imam has already given us some selected names. Then the question continues, I believe the power of tasbihs that the Imam blesses us with holds a lot of spiritual depth. So can you give us some thoughts on this, Al-Baisa?
Okay. I mean, the tasbihs which are given by Imam are the foremost and most important for us to recite. And even the name of Allah from the 99 names which Imam has given, there is no comparison of that particular name with any other tasbih. But I mean, we have so many different tasbihs in our Jamaat, like Bibi Fatima tasbih, Satara tasbih. We also recite on Laylatul Qadr, we recite different tasbihs. So all these tasbihs which are included in Jamaati ceremonies are very important tasbihs. But the tasbihs which are in Quran, with the prayers which are in Quran, those are also important to understand and recite if we do. The names of Allah, I mean, those who are fortunate to get Isme Azam, they have already received it, but there is so big Jamaat, such a big Jamaat which does not have Isme Azam. For example, think of Jamaat of Afghanistan, think of Jamaat of Iran, think of Jamaat of Hunza and Chitral. People don't have Isme Azam there. They have not been given any particular name. And in that case, if they recite all other names or any name for practice, so that is fair enough. I mean, it's a practice for them. And in any case, reciting the names, because all the names of Allah which exist, they are connected to each other. Imam gives us one name as the key to open the lock of all other names. If we have been given one name, that name definitely penetrates in all other names. The meaning, the esoteric meaning, the depth of it is connected to all other names of Allah. So that one name is, for example, it is the key to understand, to unlock all other names of Allah, because every name of Allah is a treasure. If Imam has given you one name, he has given a different name to one other person. So, I mean, even that name is a treasure, and the name you are reciting is also a treasure. So it is a key to open the locked treasure of all other names, because ultimately all these names together give us the depth and understanding of his magnanimity, his greatness. So I think if somebody is reciting some other names, that is fine. And inshallah, if you are successful in your zikr and your Isme Azam, then that particular name will open up the treasures of all other names, because they are internally linked. They all point to that one great reality. So that could be a very pleasing experience. Even at the level of ilmul yaqeen, if we can sometimes see the wisdoms of one name and we could match it with the wisdoms of another name, this is something really pleasing intellectually. So I think if it is there in experience, that will be extremely pleasing and will be giving a lot of happiness to anybody. So I think it is okay if people recite some other names also, because at the time of bandagi, you recite that particular name. In other timings, you may be reciting some other tasbih, some other zikr, and also the names of Allah, and trying to understand that. And especially thinking that these names reflect the qualities of imamat. They talk about imamat. That is another important aspect with these names, because Imam Muhammad Baqir has said that whatever has been said about Allah, it is for us imams. So I think it gives us another door altogether, another opening to understand so many things. So if we are trying to recite some other name or trying to understand those names, I think that is perfect. That is fine.
Thank you, Awaiza. And I would like to add, Imam also has the firman where he says, of course, that take the name of Ali and take the name of Muhammad, or take the name of Allah. And then he also says that, or take the name of any of the imams, right? So in this sense, we also should remember that equally as when we think about taking the 99 names or reciting 99 names, the Imam has given us guidance to recite the names of the imams if we like, if we feel called to. Because of course, in our tradition, the real living names of Allah are the Imam of each time is the living name. So when we recite those names, we can recite the Imam's names. Otherwise, I think I agree also that with the reason behind this question of why do we recite, there's a big emphasis given on the 99 names of Allah, and people have that in their house, with the posters or plaques, a nice design, which is wonderful. But we don't often see that from our Imam telling us those specific names. But of course, we do have him saying that he gave us a few names, which builds our foundation, and tells us to recite other names of the Imams. I think also one can maybe think about, we're always looking about how do we understand the Quran, or how do we enter the Quran, how do we make sense of it. So this perhaps could be another way of entering, meaning another door, that there's a certain name that we're learning, for example, from the 99, if you want to take it as 99 names. When we learn a name, then we should know something about that name and what is its relevance or significance. And we can do research on that, but one of the best ways is to see how does the Quran use that name. We might know what the name means, sort of, but what verses does it come? So just as example, if we think of even something like Al-Wahid Al-Qahar, we might know the meaning of it as the one, the subduer, or the one who's conquering, and the one. But we look at some of the Quranic verses where it says, to whom does the kingdom belong this day? Al-Wahid Al-Qahar. This idea that there's a kingdom. So there's a relationship between Al-Wahid Al-Qahar and who the kingdom belongs to, and the oneness and the overpowering that relates to being blessed with that kingdom. So there's different ways to enter the Quran, perhaps. So these names are like doors for us to enter. Let's see. Yeah. So yeah, there was someone asked if anyone can provide that hadith about the soul remaining in the brain. If someone has that, or if otherwise, if you know what that hadith is, we can share that later on.
Yeah, I don't remember the reference right now, but I'll definitely look for that and share. Yeah.
Okay, and then there's a discussion going on about Alzheimer's. We'll leave that discussion for whoever's discussing those. It's interesting, but not for now. Okay, let's see. Here's a question. If only a few people actually make it to die before you die, but that is the goal of our physical life, then it seems very deflating. Is the concept of die before you die meant mostly for us to find those who have reached there and then gain knowledge from them, or for us to actually aim ourselves to die before dying? It seems like one lifetime is not enough for all people to reach there, as history shows us that very few have reached there. Can you help me understand further, please?
Okay. Because we have discussed the severity, the strenuous nature of that experience, that not every human being perhaps could take it in his life. And yes, because another aspect was, which we discussed the last time, that when one person is resurrected, the qayamat is resurrected as a personal qayamat into him, he actually, all the particles of souls gather in him. And he dies with those and he is revived with those. So in a way, spiritual benefit has already been distributed to all the souls. Yeah, that is another aspect. Secondly, the tawil and wisdom which was needed for that particular time is given to that person, and through him, through his books, through his institutions, through his disciples, that knowledge spreads. Like P. Nasir Khusro, through his books, through his dawat, through his disciples, through his circles, that knowledge spread in many places. And for Central Asian Jamaat especially, we see that they all follow that particular path. So one person having gone through the spiritual resurrection has impacted these many areas and these many souls. So, you can see the benefit there. So even if the one person is going through that, many people are benefiting directly, indirectly from that particular resurrection. Also, like Pir Sadruddin's resurrection, it helped especially the Indian Jamaat, for example. And of course, its impact is far-reaching for whole humanity. In Sindh, sometimes I do see articles or clips that people are researching on his poetry and his ideas. So yes, so it is, the purpose is, if that one person goes through that particular resurrection, because he is enriched with knowledge, with substance, with spirituality, and then we are supposed to follow the literature and understand things from there. Because in last 1400 years, we have not seen Imam of the time sitting in a classroom, getting all the Ismailis in front of him, giving them a Quran, asking them to read, and that he would explain it. Although the title of Imam is Muallim Quran, the title of Imam is Mu'awwil Quran, the teacher of Quran, the Tawil giver of Quran. But we have not seen Imam doing that directly. So Imam prepares some soul, and indirectly, then through that person, like from P. Nasir Khusro, from Sayyid Nafiuddin Shirazi, from P. Sadruddin, we have been absorbing that knowledge, that Tawil. He teaches them in their batin, in their inner personality, and they in turn teach us. So there is a hadith, either get educated from the scholar of Ahle Bayt directly, that is Imam, if you can reach spiritually there, learn directly from him. And if not, then learn from the person who has already learned from the scholar of Ahle Bayt, meaning Imam. So yes, if few persons are getting to that point, like Imam Sultan Shah also says, कि बहुत कम लोग वहां पहुंचते हैं. So it is a divine plan also. That one person gets to the rank of a king. He has a sovereign now, and of course, then many people remain as subject, for example. But this possibility is there for every soul. When Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah Salawatullah alayhi says that तुम चाहो तो पैगंबर ईसा जैसे बन सकते हो, अगर तुम चाहो तो पीर सदर दीन जैसे बन सकते हो. If you wish or if you work for it, you can become like Pir Sadruddin, you can become like Hazrat Isa. In the Farmans of Higher Mandali, I have heard that Imam says that you can become like Pir Nasir Khusro. So the path is there. The possibility is there. And as we have discussed that it is not that one life. We all see that, oh, this is one life. We never got a chance for spiritual progress. There are life after lives, there are cycles after cycles. And who knows in which cycle of the future or past, perhaps our soul was also blessed with this particular grant and this nawazish. We can only know that when we get the eye of certainty, that and the program of the nawazish of Mawla, the generosity is there for everybody, but perhaps it is his plan that some souls get it in a particular time, because it in any case, it helps everybody. And in universal cycle of qayamat, there are predictions that the time would come that many people would become transparent and their hearts will understand a lot more. They will be able to communicate spiritually. So I think we all are lucky that we are in that cycle which has started. Perhaps it's down the road, some 1,000 years at least is there, where these things might be practical. But a lot many people will be experiencing the spiritual experiences, spiritual things which people in past achieved after a great and strenuous zikr and exercise. So it seems possible in this particular cycle of Qayamat. It might be possible, and in the cycles to come, the possibility is there, the spark is there. But it is a divine plan also. I don't think we have anything to regret as such, because there's one Quranic ayat which says that the Qiyamah will take place and many people will enter Jannat without a Hisab Kitab, without any reckoning. They will be entering the Jannah, because when the Qiyamah takes place in a perfect man, all souls go there. And they go through spiritual exercise of dying and getting revived with that person. So in that particular sense, many would be rewarded bihisht. At that time, many, all people go there, but there are two categories. They are angels and there are the whole creature of Allah. So I think in our lifetime, if it is not possible, there is no despondency, because we live there. We are already there. We have experienced unconsciously, although we don't know, we cannot recall, but it has an impact on our souls, perhaps, that we are happy, we are satisfied, we are living in Imam, we are annihilated into him. So even at the level of ilmul yaqeen, if we know that, that is a great satisfaction for us. And of course, keep trying is the key, and praying for that. But you need to create that courage, and also that stamina to go through Qayamat is not an easy matter. So yeah, I think that's what I would want to say, Khayal.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that answers the question beautifully. And if I could add anything to that, would be, you actually mentioned it during your session as well, and you said this a few times, that we don't have to think of die before you die as a one-time event. Yes, there might come a grand event like that, but all the small aspects of dying, small things, and we don't take dying here necessarily as a literal death, as we know. So even when one chooses a good thing over a bad thing, or one chooses to sacrifice, for example, let's say their sleep, or maybe going out one night instead, coming home, sleeping early because they can wake up early for the Baitul Khiyal and to attend that. Those are all aspects of dying before you die, because you've chosen something which is in the path of righteousness, or the path which is ultimately leading towards the afterlife, which is of course in ibadat. And interestingly, Imam does make a firman where he says that those who participate in the ibadat of Baitul Khiyal, that they will be better prepared when they come to the next world. So even if that, the light does not, let's say you're not touched by that light, and that's another interesting thing we can talk about, but you'll still be better prepared. So at the very least, when we're doing all these things, not to feel despondent that I have not been touched with light, we know for a fact that just by participating in that activity of it, not only are we structuring our lives in that way as if we are dead, right? There's a hadith that says, worship Allah as if you see him, for if you see him not, he sees you, right? So worship Allah as if we see him. So in a way, we are living as if we are dead, because the dead person probably won't be going out to the movies, I don't think, unless they're seeing their life review, but they will be doing ibadat. They'll be in the realm of ibadat. So when we choose ibadat over other things, in a way we've sacrificed, and it relates perfectly to our theme here, Eid al-Adha as well. So I think that would be one thing to think about. And of course, Quranic verses that says that for every one good deed you do, you receive 10. The reward is 10. And one can say, why is that the case? Why do we receive 10? And perhaps it's related to what you mentioned earlier, that when there's one insan kamil, or when the imam or our higher hudud-e-din, when they reached their level, like a peer can give his sabab, his blessings, or his ibadat can be given to those who are in the Jamaat. So interestingly, one good thing we do, one good work, can bring all this extra reward. So in these small things we do, the small sort of dying, like if you take one step of die before you die, we might be being blessed on the other side with so much of reward. And of course, we'll experience all that, inshallah, when it comes our day to experience it. But I think we should always trust that nothing is being wasted. No moment spent in remembrance or in the act of faith will be ignored or forgotten by Allah. Imam says I don't forget, or I always remember service. I think he says, and I don't forget someone's seva, right? Someone's service in one firman. I'm sure somebody knows what I'm talking about. This is Imam does not forget. He simply does not forget when someone does some seva or service. So in the same way, of course, how could Imam forget when the one sits in the remembrance of his name?
Yeah, very well explained, Ayaan. Yeah.
Okay, so there is a question relating back to the Eid-e-Gadir. Although we know that Eid-e-Gadir is the supreme Eid for Shias, why is it not given that much attention or a larger congregational prayers and celebration like the other two Eids are?
Okay. Because I think, first of all, yeah, Shias do celebrate Eid-e-Gadir in a quite elaborated way. The other Shia communities, like I have seen, there are colleagues with me, they would want off on that particular day and they celebrate that day. They celebrate many other days related to Bibi Fatma, etc. Yes, but not like these 2 days. I think one of the reasons could be that when you have Imam, I mean, having Imam and his guidance is like an Eid every day. His very existence is Eid for you. If you're talking about us Ismailis, we do have a majlis in Jamaat Khana. Okay, we all go, but we do not celebrate it as an elaborated Eid like we do on the 2 other Eids, perhaps because for us, if we live in a country where this Eid is celebrated in a different way, so we all become a part of it, perhaps. But Eid-e-Gadir, at that one day, that's an important day. Yes, there is no official holidays, for example, like in many countries. So perhaps it is limited ceremonies in Jamaat Khana. But because every day, the existence of Imam is Eid for every day. And like we celebrate the Imamat Day of Imam, we celebrate the birthday of Imam, and our whole life goes around the Imam. And having Imam itself is a sense of satisfaction, a sense of pride, a sense of protection. So that is a constant Eid, and that is at the back of our mind. This could be one reason, but for example, we have, as I said, Salgira Jashan, Imamat Day Jashan, also Jubilees Jashan. I mean, these were all Eid for us. Like every Jashan we enjoyed so much, whether it was Silver Jubilee or Golden Jubilee or Platinum Jubilee, Diamond Jubilee, we enjoyed each and every gesture of that jubilees, Didar, the other activities in Jamaat Khana. So I think the concept of Imamat is concept of Eid. His presence is a permanent Eid. And that's where, because it is spread on our complete life, so it's in totality a Eid. And we don't necessarily perhaps celebrate that day as a grand day. And the other 2 days, perhaps in Pakistan, I think we celebrate because all other communities are celebrating. There is national holiday. So it gives time to meet with family, sit down, cook, eat, talk. So yeah, but we know that for us, the greatest Eid is Eid-e-Ghadir. And that is the concept of Imamat. And all the other 2 Eids also reveal some of the secrets of Imamat. And they cannot be disconnected from that supreme Eid. But our supreme Eid is the days when we celebrate the happiness of occasions, of Jamaati occasions. And the very presence of Imam is being a constant sense of Eid. I think this could be one of the angle to see that.
Thank you, Eliza. Okay, I don't really see too many more relevant questions here. There is one, maybe perhaps question you can address about hadith. Somebody asked that sorry, let me just find the question. Okay, so nope, trying to find it here. It was a question about hadith. I don't see it in the chat anymore. Oh, here we go. So are all the hadiths in Bukhari okay for us to read and understand as Ismaili? And are there certain books of hadith that we should avoid?
Okay. I think the hadiths which are narrated by Imam Jafar Sadiq, by other Imams, by the faithful people surrounding Imams could be more important for us. And, the criteria to see if that hadith is perfectly fine for us is that, does it match with one of the Quranic verses? Does it match with Quranic talim? That could be one of the metrics, one of the procedure to check that hadith, hadith, because they were collected after some time after the death of Prophet. And there were many, I would say, there were different thoughts of people. Like we all know that some went for the Khilafat of Hazrat Abu Bakr and Umar and Usman, and we Ismailis and Shia went for the Khilafat and Imamat of Mawla Ali. So, I mean, in Hadith, there are variations, and then people had to, the scholars had to come up with a science to verify Hadith, which is a Sahih Hadith, which is a Hasan Hadith, which is a Zaif, weak Hadith, which is a strange Hadith, which nobody else has narrated. So there is a lot of confusion surrounding Hadith. So I think for us, the Hadiths which are either narrated by Imam or the faithful followers of Imam, like Ibn Abbas has narrated many hadiths. He was with Mawla Murtaza Ali, and many of his hadiths make a lot of sense, and they are authentic hadiths, for example. And the Shia give importance to certain hadiths which are narrated by Imam or which talk about Imams. And one other criteria could be that if that hadith is matching to the one of the Quranic principle, then you can trust that. Because even within the Sunni world, there is a lot of discussion on the health of hadith. They have come up with certain criteria to decipher that which hadith was the correct hadith and which hadith was not as correct, and which was a weak hadith. And they have made criteria for that how many narrators have narrated this particular hadith. So for us, the quotes of Imams are also very important, and sometimes they have given the gist of hadith in that. So I think we should be going for the hadiths which are quoted by our Ismaili Buzurgs, because we do find that Queen Nasira Khusro has quoted certain hadiths. Sayyidina Mu'izzuddin Shirazi has quoted certain hadiths, or in the books of Allama Sahib, he quotes certain hadiths. They have already done a lot of research on that. And they bring the hadiths which help us to understand our tariqah, which help us to deepen our understanding about a particular concept, which help us create a connection between Quran and hadith and other talimat of our tariqah. So I think this could be a better way rather than going into books of Bukhari. It's such a voluminous book that I mean, it's almost impossible for us to finish or to really understand. And there is so much confusion about these hadiths also. Recently, there was some announcement in Saudi Arabia about the health of these hadiths also. So I think we should perhaps stick to hadiths which our buzurgs have quoted in their books, or imams have narrated, or imams have used. So this could give us a better understanding and depth and direction rather than going to a voluminous ocean of hadith, which perhaps will not lead us anywhere, because hadiths are also to confirm the Sunni thought, and they are narrated and explained in that way. So I think we should perhaps stick to the hadiths which really help us understand. Even if you want to do research, then I think Al-Kafi is a Shia collection of hadiths. And there are some very good scholars who have collections of the hadiths on which Shia and Sunni agree together. And these could be really good hadiths. There are also collection of hadiths where in Sunni books of hadith, Sunni scholars who have written the books of hadith, they quote the hadith about Mullah Murtaza Ali. And I think Dr. Fakir Muhammad Hunzai has also collected those hadiths in the names of hadiths which are specific to Ahle Bayt. So I think these kinds of hadiths could help us rather than diving in that ocean and finding something which can help us. We could perhaps restrict ourselves to that particular study of hadiths.
Thank you, Eliza. If I could remind everybody about the book Dayam al-Islam, which I think everyone has heard many, many times. I'm assuming everybody already has a PDF because it's been shared for the last maybe since 2020. It's been shared many, many times. Hopefully, if you don't have it, you can let us know. The Dayam al-Islam, written by Qadi al-Numan, which is, strictly speaking, is not a hadith book, but many hadiths are quoted in there. And I find that book is actually very amazing. Sometimes we think it might be a Zahiri book because it's about the aspects of the Sharia, but there's a lot of hadith, especially in the first chapter, the book of Walaya, and there's many hadith quoted about knowledge and who to seek knowledge from, and as well as the person who is on the path of knowledge. And there's many beautiful hadith in there. The Dayam al-Islam Volume 2 perhaps might not be found as interesting as the first one, because the second volume is more to do with like transactions of the world, business contracts, and what marriages and whatnot. I'm not gonna say it's not interesting at all, but it might be not as interesting as the first volume is. So I would start with Dayam al-Islam Volume 1. That being said, there are some hidden beautiful secrets in the Dayam al-Islam Volume 2. In fact, there's one hadith which is absolutely amazing, where it talks about what happens to somebody after they die and they resurrect. And if when a man dies and resurrects, a beautiful apparition, it's called Mislun Hasana, will resurrect along with them, or will appear to them, and it will travel with the person as they're going through the various stages. And every time there's something which is sort of like maybe something to fearful, or something which can be sort of seen as new, that beautiful apparition causes the person to have peace, or it reassures them that there's nothing's going to happen to them, to the point that finally, the man exclaims and says, you've protected me, or everything you said has come true, that I've entered now, when he went before the judgment. It seems like that beautiful apparition sort of even kind of helped them pass the judgment correctly and get into the paradise. And it says that you promised me, and everything you promised came true. Who are you? And then the apparition says that I am a creature created from the happiness that you gave to others while you were alive. The happiness you gave to others, that feeling of happiness, Allah created something from that, because of course Allah is the best of creators. He can create something out of nothing, which means he can create a creature out of someone else's joy, which obviously we don't have to take too literally, or we can if we like to. But that just goes to show that, you know, what we do today, the good deeds, will have a definite effect on our afterlife, such to the point that we might be being protected by our own apparition, which is created from our own selves. So I'm bringing that as an example because even a book where we don't expect it sometimes, the Dayam al-Islam Volume 2, which seems to be about the worldly transactions, has some beautiful hadith in there as well.
Beautiful hadith you reminded of, Khayyal. Yeah.
Okay, there's not more questions. There is one comment which I think should be read out. So it's related to the Eid-e-Gadir question. So someone has said that Eid-e-Gadir is at least celebrated in Jamaat Khana with all the rituals that we normally perform on a special day for Jamaat Khana daily, while the other two Eids, they do have namaz, but no other of usual rituals like the dua or ginan, and you know, that having feasts in the other Eid is the physical thing, whereas Eid-e-Gadir is celebrated within the Jamaat Khana space, the Jamaat Khana time. I think to add to that comment, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that Gatbat is established on Eid-e-Gadir. Is that correct? That Gatbat is usually established with Niyaz on Eid-e-Gadir?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I believe so. And I mean, I hope I'm right about that. But if it is, that itself is a very interesting fact that we established Gatbat. And that brings up the question of what is it about that day, or what is it about any day or time we have Gatbat, and what is it about other days we do not? Why do we have on certain days? Why is it that on Friday we have establishing Gatbat, or on special days? Of course, any special day related to Imamat especially will have Gatbat, and here Eid-e-Gadir. So what is it about the Eid-e-Gadir that relates to the partaking of the Gatbat, the Niyaz, the Sukrit? And then another part to think about that question is that if we think that, yes, that's true, we don't have Gatbat every day, but actually we do, of course, because we have it every morning. So then the question is, what is it about the morning compared to the night? What are all the symbols here? And there are some lectures we can find. I'm sure people know what I'm talking about. You can find them on the significance of all this. So that was thank you for that comment. That was good about Eid-e-Gadir being celebrated.
Yeah, important. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's probably it. Do we have time for a Girizari or?
Yeah, I'll do a short one because last time, some had asked. We'll just do a short Girizari and close the session. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minas zalimin. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minas zalimin. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minas zalimin. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minas zalimin. या मौलाए मेहरबान, इस इल्मी दस्तरखान पर तेरे पाक दीन की इल्मी ग़िज़ाओं से लज्जत हासिल करके तेरी शुक्रगुजारी करना चाहते हैं मौला। या मौला, ना हमारी हैसियत ऐसी है, ना हमारी ऐसी कोई ताकत है, ना हमारी ऐसी कोई रसाई और पहुंच है कि तेरे दीन के पाक राजों को हम समझ सकते मौला, मगर तेरी नवाजिश है मौला, तेरी करम नवाजिश है मौला, तेरी मेहरबानी, तेरी सखावत है मौला कि तूने हमारे दामन में दीन की आला हकीकतों की ऐसे ऐसे राज डाल दिए मौला। ऐ परवरदिगार, तेरे हुजूर में शुक्रगुजारी का हक हमसे अदा नहीं हो सकता। तेरे पाक दीन की इन नेमतों से हम कितना फायदा उठाते हैं मगर शुक्र नहीं कर पाते। या मौला, तेरी पाक मोहब्बत, तेरी पाक शख्सियत, तेरा पाक प्रोटेक्शन हमारी जिंदगी का मरकज है मौला। हमारी जिंदगी तेरे गिर्द तवाफ करने में गुजर जाए, तेरे जमाअत खाने के तवाफ करने में गुजर जाए, तेरी पाक जमाअत की खिदमत में गुजर जाए। या मौला, हम जिंदगी में बहुत से मकामात पर तेरी फरमान बरदारी नहीं कर पाते, इबादत नहीं कर पाते, आगे नहीं बढ़ सकते, इसलिए कि हम बहुत कमजोर हैं मौला। बार बार गिरते हैं, पड़ते हैं, बार बार उठने की कोशिश करते हैं। तू हमारी दस्तगीरी कर मौला, हमारा हाथ पकड़ मौला, ایک بچہ جب چل نہیں سکتا تو اس کا ہاتھ پکڑا جاتا ہے، جب اس کے کھو جانے کا ڈر ہو تو اس کو ساتھ رکھا جاتا ہے۔ تو ہماری روحانی ماں، تو ہمارا روحانی باپ۔ دنیا کے رشتوں سے کبھی خوشی ملتی ہے مولا، کبھی نہیں ملتی ہے، کبھی شیرینی ہے، کبھی تلخی ہے۔ دنیا کے احوال میں کبھی خوشی ہے، کبھی ناخوشی ہے، مگر تیری پاک محبت میں ہمیشہ خوشی ہے مولا۔ تیری پاک محبت میں ہمیشہ دل کا سکون ہے مولا۔ دنیا کو آزما کر دیکھ لیا ہے ہم نے، نہ دولت میں، نہ بنگلوں میں، نہ گاڑیوں میں، جو حقیقی اور آخری سکون ہے وہ تیری پاک محبت میں ہے۔ دنیا میں تو نوازے تو تیری شکر گزاری ہے مولا، اور تو آزمائے تو اس حکمت کو سمجھنے کی اعلیٰ توفیق عنایت کر مولا۔ خداوندہ کسی بھی مومن کا دل اس لیے دکھی نہ ہو کہ وہ تیری محبت سے دور ہو، وہ تیرے تحفظ کے احساس سے دور ہو، وہ تجھ کو چاہنے کے احساس سے دور ہو۔ وہ اس لیے دکھی نہ ہو کہ دنیا میں اس کے پاس اتنی دولت اور اتنی فراوانی نہیں ہے۔ تیری پاک محبت سے اس کے دل کو پرنور کر دے مولا۔ تیری پاک محبت سے ہر مومن کے قلب کو روشن کر دینا۔ دنیا کی تکلیفوں کو قربانی کا درجہ عطا کر دے مولا۔ دنیا کی تکلیفوں پر صبر و ہمت عطا کر مولا۔ ہمارے صبر کرنے سے وہ قربانی قیامت کو قریب لے آئے گی، اور ہماری بے صبری اور ناشکری سے بہت ساری نعمتیں ضائع ہو جائیں گی۔ یا مولا مہربان، تیرا پاک دین، تیری پاک موجودگی ہمارے لیے ہر روز عید ہے مولا۔ ہمارے لیے ہر روز ایک نورانی خوشی کا دن ہے۔ لوگ کسی عید کو منانے کے لیے سال انتظار کرتے ہیں، لیکن ایک مومن کے لیے تیری پاک یاد ہر روز عید ہے۔ اگر تو توفیق دے اور ہم صبح اٹھ سکیں، بیت الخیال کی عبادت کر سکیں، ایک لمحے کے لیے بھی کھو سکیں، محو ہو سکیں، اپنے آپ کو فنا کر سکیں، تو خوشیوں کا ایک طوفان، خوشیوں کا ایک سمندر دل میں امڈ جاتا ہے۔ تو کسی خواب میں آ کر دیدار دے دے، کوئی اچھا خواب دکھا دے، تو اس کی خوشی ہماری زندگی پر ایک عرصے تک محیط رہتی ہے۔ یا مولا مہربان، ایسی عید کو ہماری زندگی کی دائمی عید بنا دے مولا۔ جو لوگ دنیا میں صرف سال میں 2 مرتبہ عید کو ڈھونڈتے ہیں، اور وہ بھی صرف ظاہری ریچولز تک محدود رہتے ہیں، ان کو ہماری خوشی کا کیا اندازہ ہوگا؟ ان کو ہماری ان نعمتوں کا کیسے اندازہ ہو سکتا ہے؟ یا مولا مہربان، ہم بہت گناہگار ہیں، خطا کار ہیں، تیرے پاک دین کی قدردانی اور شکر گزاری نہیں کر سکے ہیں، اس کے باوجود رحمت کی امید رکھتے ہیں، چونکہ تو نے ہمیں سپوائل کیا ہے، تو نے ہمیشہ محبت دی ہے، تو نے دیدار میں آ کر مائی بیلوڈ اسپریچول چلڈرن کہہ کر اپنی رحمتیں، برکتیں ہم پر نچھاور کی ہیں مولا، ہمیں نوازا ہے مولا۔ ان نعمتوں اور برکتوں کی خوشی دل میں چھپائے ہم تجھ سے امید رکھتے ہیں کہ تو معاف کرے گا، دستگیری کرے گا، آگے بڑھائے گا، نفس کے اس جنگل میں ہم کو تنہا نہیں چھوڑے گا، نفس کے اس مشکل حالات میں ہمیں اکیلا نہیں چھوڑے گا۔ دنیا کے میلے میں ہم کو اکیلا نہ چھوڑنا مولا۔ دنیا کے میلے میں کوئی بچہ ماں سے ہاتھ چھڑا کر کھو جاتا ہے تو کتنا پریشان ہوتا ہے، ہمیں کھونے نہ دینا مولا۔ ہمارا ہاتھ پکڑنا، اپنے ساتھ ساتھ رکھنا، احساس دلاتے رہنا، زندہ کرنا ہمارے مردہ دلوں کو بار بار اپنی محبت سے، شفقت سے، اپنی خانہ بدان کی دعاؤں سے ہمارے دل کو زندہ رکھنا، ہماری محبت کو، ہمارے جذبے کو زندہ رکھنا۔ یا مولا مہربان، اس علمی کلاس میں شرکت کی، اس سے سمجھنے کی اعلیٰ توفیق دینا، مطالعہ کرنے کی، ریڈنگ کرنے کی، اسٹڈی کرنے کی، ریسرچ کرنے کی اعلیٰ توفیق دینا۔ ہمیں رات کو سوتے وقت تیرے پاک فرمان اور کتابوں کو پڑھ کے ان کے بارے میں سوچنے کی اعلیٰ ہمت دے۔ تیرا راستہ جو ڈھونڈنا چاہتا ہے تو اس کو راستہ دیتا ہے مولا. جو ہمت کر کے ایک قدم بڑھاتا ہے تو 10 قدم چل کر آتا ہے اور اس کو تھام لیتا ہے, گرنے نہیں دیتا ہے. ہمارے شب روز تیرے خیال میں گزرے, سونے سے پہلے تیرا تصور ہو, نیند میں تیرا تصور ہو, دنیا کے کاموں میں تیری یاد دل میں چھپی رہے. یا مولا مہربان, عبادت میں, بندگی میں, علم کی کوشش میں ہمیں پوری طرح سے تائید, توفیق اور ہمت عطا کرنا. یا مولا ہماری جماعت کی جو نئی نسل ہے, خدا بندہ کبھی کبھی دیکھ کر افسوس ہوتا ہے کہ دین کی, مذہب کی, شعور کی چیزیں ان کے لیے زندگی میں ابھی اتنی اہم نہیں ہیں, لیکن وہ تیری پاک نورانی اولاد ہیں, وہ جماعت کا مستقبل ہے. ان کے دلوں میں علم کی تڑپ پیدا کر مولا, دین کی سمجھ حاصل کرنے کے لیے شوق پیدا کر مولا. عبادت میں ان کو اتنا مزہ آئے کہ وہ جماعت کھانے کے لیے پروانہ وار آتے رہے. یا مولا مہربان, ہمارے گھروں میں جو چھوٹے بچے ہیں, لٹل اینجلز ہیں, ان کی اچھی پرورش کرنے کی اعلیٰ توفیق دینا. ان کے دل و دماغ کو روحانی ترقی کے لیے تیار کرنے کے لیے ہمیں اپنا کردار ادا کرنے کی توفیق دینا. یا مولا, جو دنیا میں بیمار ہیں, بوڑھے ہیں, سینئر ہیں, کسی مشکل میں ہے, کسی تکلیف میں ہے, کسی مہاجرت میں ہے, کسی مسافرت میں ہے, کسی غم میں, کسی مایوسی میں, یا مولا مہربان تیرے پاک نور سے ان کے دلوں میں ہمیشہ امید کی کرن زندہ رہے. کبھی کسی مومن کو مایوس نہ ہونے دینا مولا. دنیا کے احوال کو برداشت کرنے کی ہمت عطا کرنا مولا. مایوسی سے دور رکھ کر اس کے دل میں امید کا چراغ جلانا مولا. تو شاہن شاہ ممکنات ہے, لارڈ آف آل پاسبلٹیز ہے. تو کسی بھی طرح سے کسی کے دل میں جا کر امید کو جلا سکتا ہے مولا. اس لیے مولا, ہر بیمار شخص کو, تکلیف میں شخص کو, جو اسپیشلی ایبلڈ لوگ ہیں, ان سب کے دلوں میں امید کو زندہ رکھنا اور اپنے نورانی دیدار سے ان کو قلبی سکون عنایت کرنا. یا مولا, جن ملکوں میں شور و شر ہے, انتشار ہے, سیاسی ابتری ہے, امن و امان کی کمی ہے, جنگ و جدل ہے, ظلم و ستم ہے, یا پروردگار تیرا نظام ازل قیامت کے دور میں نافذ ہونے والا ہے. یقیناً تو اپنے پلان کے مطابق عدل کو, انصاف کو دنیا میں رائج کرے گا. یا مولا, دنیا کے احوال دیکھ کر ہمارا دل تجھ سے بہت ہی توجہ سے دعا کرتا ہے کہ اپنے الواحد القہار اسم کی برکت سے چیزوں کو اپنے کنٹرول میں لے مولا. تو دنیا میں ایک مہلت دیتا ہے اور قیامت میں وہ مہلت ختم ہوتی ہے. اس اپنے غلبے سے چیزوں کو اپنے کنٹرول میں لے کر قیامت کی طاقت سے دنیا کے احوال کو درست کر دے, انسانیت کی عزت کو بحال کر دے, ظلم و ستم کو ختم کر دے. یا مولا مہربان, ہمارے علم اور عبادت میں ترقی کی خواہش کو قبول فرما اور ہمارے لیے چھوٹی چھوٹی قربانیوں سے ایک خوشی, ایک ترقی, ایک روشنی عنایت کر مولا. حسبنا اللہ و نعم الوکیل, نعم المولا و نعم النصیر. حسبنا اللہ و نعم الوکیل, نعم المولا و نعم النصیر. حسبنا اللہ و نعم الوکیل, حسبنا اللہ و نعم الوکیل, نعم المولا و نعم النصیر. اے مولا, تو ہی ہمارے لیے کافی ہے, تو ہی ہمارا بہترین دوست, بہترین وکیل اور بہترین مددگار ہے. اے علی زمان, دنیا کے ہر شخص کو اور تمام مومنین کسی بھی مشکل میں تجھ کو پکارتے ہوں تو اپنی ولایت کی حرمت سے ان کی مدد کو پہنچنا اور ہماری اس عاجزانہ گریہ گزاری کو अर्ज विनती को तू अपने हुजूर पर नूर में कबूल फरमाना। इल्म की खिदमत में पेश पेश रहने वाले और इस इल्मी महफिल के सजाने वालों को इल्म में आगे बढ़ने की और ज्यादा हिम्मत, तौफीक और ताईद इनायत करना, और तमाम सुनने वालों को इल्म में, इबादत में, विजडम में बहुत ज्यादा तरक्की इनायत करना। शुक्रन लिल्लाहि वल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, शुक्रन लिल्लाहि वल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, शुक्रन लिल्लाहि वल्हम्दुलिल्लाह। या अली मदद।
Mawla Ali Madad, Ameen to the wonderful Giyazari advisor.
Thank you, Rose. Ya Ali Madad.
So, if you're all set, Kaya, can we close the room, or you need a couple of minutes?
Oh, sorry. No, I thought you were gonna close it out, but
Yeah, I will close it out, but I wanted to wait if you had something to do in terms of copy pasting.
No, I mean, I put an announcement in the chat for another session, which is starting in less than 1 hour. People can find it in the chat. So
yeah, it's at the very end almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll leave it open. I'll leave the room open for a while so people can, if they haven't got the link, they can still get it.
I can repaste it also.
Sure.
All right. Thank you.
Alvaiza, we will see you in a fortnight.
Inshallah.
Again,
Thank you, Rose. Thank
Okay.
you, Khayan. Thank you, everybody online. Ya Ali Madad.